The auction block wasn't meant for cattle or art. It was meant for her. Clara Whitfield stood under the chandeliers of Ashford Hall, her stepfather's hand clamped on her wrist like a shackle, while 200 of society's finest turned to watch her humiliation. He was selling her time, her presence, her dignity, wrapped in the polite fiction of charitable companionship. The room hummed with cruel amusement. She was the punchline to a joke she'd never asked to be part of. Then a voice cut through the noise, low, cold, and absolute. 50,000. The room went silent, and Clara's life cracked wide open. Want to see what happens when the girl no one saw becomes the one no one can ignore? Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The dress they'd put her in was pale blue. Too pale, too modest, too obviously chosen to make her disappear. Clara had learned a long time ago that invisibility was survival. You didn't speak unless spoken to. You didn't laugh unless someone else laughed first. You didn't exist loudly enough to be remembered. Tonight, that strategy had failed spectacularly. Do I hear 15,000 for an evening with Miss Whitfield? The auctioneer's voice boomed across the ballroom, each syllable landing like a fist. Clara stood on the raised platform, hands folded in front of her, eyes fixed on a point just above the crowd. If she didn't look at them, maybe it wouldn't be real. Maybe she could pretend this was happening to someone else. But the laughter made that impossible. 15? Anyone? She's quite accomplished, I'm told. Plays the piano tolerably well. Her stepfather, Gregory Whitfield, stood at the edge of the platform with his arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man trying to offload damaged goods. He didn't look at her. He never did. Not with anything resembling warmth. To him, she was a line item in a ledger that had long since stopped balancing. 10,000, someone called from the back. A young man with too much wine in him and not enough sense. His friends erupted in laughter. 10,000! Wonderful! Do I hear 12? Silence. Clara's chest tightened. The humiliation wasn't new. Gregory had been perfecting it for years. But this was different. This was public. This was 200 witnesses watching her value get quantified in real time and finding it lacking. Come now, gentlemen, the auctioneer urged. Surely someone— 8,000, a woman said lazily. Lady Pembroke, draped in emeralds and malice. She wasn't bidding out of interest. She was bidding to make a point. The crowd tittered. Clara felt the heat crawl up her neck. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to grab the nearest candelabra and set the whole room on fire. Instead, she stood perfectly still, because that's what invisible girls did. 8,000 going once. Her stepfather shifted, muttering something under his breath. Clara didn't need to hear it to know what he was thinking. Useless, unmarriageable, a waste of money I never should have spent. Going twice. This was it, the final proof that she was worth nothing. Not even charity could inflate her value past £8,000 and a pitying smile. 50,000. The voice came from the shadows near the entrance, cool, deliberate, and sharp enough to cut glass. The room didn't just go quiet. It went still. Even the candles seemed to stop flickering. Clara's head snapped up. A man stepped into the light. Rowan Blackthorne. She knew the name before she saw the face. Everyone did. The Earl of Greymar was a legend in the worst sense of the word. Cold. Ruthless. The kind of man who could ruin you with a signature and not lose a minute of sleep. He didn't attend social events. He didn't mingle. He certainly didn't bid at charity auctions. And yet here he was. He moved through the crowd like smoke, dark coat tailored to perfection, black hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from stone and left out in the rain. His eyes, pale gray, unreadable, locked onto hers. Clara forgot how to breathe. 50,000 pounds, he repeated, his gaze never leaving her face. For the evening. The auctioneer stammered. Yes, of course, my lord. 50,000. Do I hear— No, Rowan said quietly. You don't. It wasn't a suggestion. The auctioneer swallowed. Sold. To Lord Blackthorne. The crowd erupted, not in applause but in shocked whispers that rippled outward like cracks in ice. Clara heard fragments of it as Rowan approached the platform. Madness. 50,000 for her. What does he want with— Gregory stepped forward, all smiles now, hand extended. My lord, what an unexpected pleasure. I'm sure Clara is honored. Rowan didn't even glance at him. He stopped in front of Clara and offered his hand. Miss Whitfield. She stared at it, at him. Her heart was doing something erratic and painful in her chest, like it couldn't decide whether to race or stop entirely. I don't understand, she whispered. You will, he said. There was no warmth in his voice, but there was something else, something that made her reach out and take his hand before she could think better of it. His fingers closed around hers, firm and steady, and then he led her off the platform, through the sea of staring faces, and out into the night. The carriage was black, sleek, and entirely too quiet. Clara sat across from Rowan, hands folded in her lap, trying very hard not to look like she was about to throw up. The streets of London blurred past the window, gas lamps casting long shadows across the cobblestones. Rowan hadn't said a word since they left Ashford Hall. Where are we going? She finally asked. My residence. Her stomach dropped. I didn't agree to... I'm not going to touch you, Miss Whitfield. The flatness of his tone was somehow more unsettling than if he'd leered. Clara studied him in the dim light. He sat perfectly still, one hand resting on the head of his cane, the other on his knee. He looked like a man who'd never been uncomfortable a day in his life. Then why did you pay £50,000 for my company? Because your stepfather's a fool, and I don't like fools. Clara blinked. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. She wanted to argue. She wanted to demand he turn the carriage around, but something stopped her, some traitorous, desperate part of her that whispered, what if he actually sees you? The thought was so absurd she almost laughed. No one saw her. That was the point. The carriage pulled to a stop in front of a townhouse in Mayfair, elegant, austere, and completely devoid of warmth. A butler appeared as if summoned by magic, opening the door without a word. Rowan stepped out, then turned to offer Clara his hand again. She hesitated. You can leave if you want, he said. But if you stay, I'll give you something your stepfather never has. What's that? A choice. Clara's fingers trembled as she placed her hand in his. Inside, the townhouse was exactly what she expected. Dark wood, high ceilings, and furniture that looked like it had been selected by someone who valued function over comfort. Everything was precise, controlled, like him. Rowan led her into a study lined with books, thousands of them, floor to ceiling. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting warm light over the room. He gestured to a chair near the fire. Sit. It wasn't a request, but it wasn't quite a command either. Clara sat. Rowan moved to a sideboard and poured 2 glasses of brandy. He handed her one without asking if she wanted it. I don't drink, she said. Tonight you do. She took the glass, watched him settle into the chair across from her, long legs stretched out, expression unreadable. Why am I here? She asked again. Because I remember you. Clara frowned. We've never met. We have. 3 years ago, Lady Harrington's garden party. She searched her memory and came up empty. You were sitting under a tree, reading. You didn't notice me. Most people don't. He took a slow sip of his brandy. I asked what you were reading. You looked up like I'd startled you out of another world. You told me it was a treatise on engineering, specifically the structural advantages of suspension bridges. Clara's breath caught. She did remember, vaguely. A man in a dark coat who'd asked her a question and then left before she could answer properly. You remembered that? I remember everything. The weight of those words settled over her like a blanket. Why? Rowan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. Because in a room full of people performing who they thought they should be, you were the only one who forgot to pretend. Clara's throat tightened. That's not... You were brilliant, he said simply. And no one was paying attention. She looked away, blinking hard. You don't know me. I know enough. You know nothing. The words came out sharper than she intended. You know what you saw in a garden 3 years ago. You don't know what it's like to... She stopped, swallowing the rest of the sentence. To what? To be nothing. The silence that followed was suffocating. Rowan set his glass down with a soft clink. You're not nothing, Clara. You're a weapon your stepfather is too stupid to know how to use. Her name in his mouth sounded different, solid, real. He's going to be furious, she whispered, when I go back. Then don't. She laughed, short, bitter. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You don't understand. Clara stood abruptly, pacing to the window. He controls everything, my mother's estate, my sister's future. If I leave, he'll... She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. He'll destroy us. Let him try. Clara turned. You can't just... I can do whatever I want, Miss Whitfield. So can you. The only difference is that I've stopped pretending otherwise. She wanted to believe him, desperately, but belief was a luxury she'd learned to live without. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Rowan stood, crossing the room until he was close enough that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the scar cutting through his left eyebrow. I want to see what happens when you stop hiding. I'm not hiding. You're not breathing. But the truth of it hit her like a slap. I don't know how to be anything else, she admitted. Then learn. He said it like it was easy, like she could just decide to be different and it would happen. But maybe that's exactly what he was offering, a chance. Clara took a shaky breath. And if I fail, then you fail as yourself, not as the ghost your stepfather made you. Something inside her cracked, not broke, cracked, like the first fracture in a dam that had been holding back a flood for too long. I don't even know where to start, she whispered. Rowan's expression softened, barely, but enough. Start here, tonight, with me. Doing what? He gestured to the books lining the walls. Tell me about suspension bridges. Clara stared at him. You're serious. Entirely. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Clara Whitfield smiled. Not the polite, forgettable smile she'd perfected, a real one. All right, she said, but only if you can keep up. Rowan's mouth curved. Try me. They talked for hours, not about weather or gossip or any of the inane subjects Clara had been trained to discuss at parties. They talked about physics and mathematics and the poetry hidden in well-designed structures. Rowan listened, actually listened, and pushed back when she was vague, demanded precision when she hedged. It was exhilarating. It was terrifying. It was the first time Clara had ever felt seen. By the time the clock struck midnight, she was curled up in the chair by the fire, brandy forgotten, explaining the tension distribution in a cable-stayed bridge with her hands. So the load transfers through the cables to the towers, which means the deck can be lighter, more efficient. It's elegant, functional, beautiful, because it's honest about what it is. Rowan watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You should be teaching at a university. Clara laughed. Women don't teach at universities. They should. Well, they don't? Then what will you do? The question landed like a stone in still water. Clara's hands stilled. I don't know. What I've always done, I suppose. Survive, stay quiet, hope no one notices me long enough that I can... She trailed off. Can what? Disappear. Rowan leaned forward. What if you didn't? Didn't what? Disappear. Clara shook her head. You don't understand how this works. People like me, we don't get to be loud. We don't get to take up space. People like you? Girls with no money, no title, no future. Girls whose stepfathers view them as liabilities. You're not a liability, Clara. You're an asset he's too incompetent to value. She wanted to believe him, but believing was dangerous. It doesn't matter what I am, she said quietly. It matters what he can do to me. What can he do? Anything he wants. The words hung between them, heavy and true. Rowan's jaw tightened. Not anymore. You can't just... I just paid £50,000 for your evening, Miss Whitfield. I can do considerably more than that. Clara stood abruptly. This isn't a game. I know. Then stop acting like you can fix this with money and arrogance. I'm not trying to fix anything. Rowan rose, crossing to stand in front of her. I'm offering you a choice. Stay in his house and let him break you piece by piece, or stand with me and fight back. I can't fight him. Yes, you can. You don't know what he's capable of. Then tell me. Clara's breath came faster, The room felt too small, too warm. He has letters, documents, things that could destroy my mother's memory, ruin my sister's chances at any kind of life. If I step out of line, if I embarrass him, If you live, Rowan finished. Yes. He studied her for a long moment. Do you know what blackmail is, Clara? Of course. It's a bluff. A very effective one, but still a bluff. It only works if the person being blackmailed believes the cost of resistance is higher than the cost of compliance. It's not a bluff if he actually has. It doesn't matter what he has. It matters what you're willing to risk to call it. Clara pressed her hands to her temples. You're asking me to gamble with my family's future. I'm asking you to trust that you're worth more than his threats. That's easy for you to say. No, Rowan said quietly. It's not. Something in his voice made her look up. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, those cold gray eyes, held something raw, something that looked almost like understanding. What happened to you? Clara asked before she could stop herself. That's a story for another night. Will there be another night? The corner of his mouth lifted. That depends. Mom, on what? On whether you're brave enough to leave this house and go back to your life pretending tonight didn't happen, or brave enough to stay and see what happens if you stop pretending altogether. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. He was a stranger, a dangerous one, by all accounts. And she was standing in his study at midnight, contemplating throwing away the only safety she'd ever known on the strength of a 3-year-old memory and a few hours of conversation. But when was the last time she'd felt anything close to alive? I need to think, she said. Then think. I'll have the carriage take you home. Just like that? Just like that. Clara searched his face for a trap, for some hidden agenda. She found nothing but patience. I should go, she said finally. Rowan nodded, stepped back. I'll walk you out. They moved through the townhouse in silence. At the door, Clara paused. Why did you really bid on me tonight? Rowan's gaze was steady. Because I'm tired of watching brilliant people get crushed by small men. And because 3 years ago, a girl in a garden told me about bridges with more passion than I'd heard anyone speak about anything in years. I wanted to know if that girl was still in there. And? She is. Clara's throat tightened. Thank you. For tonight. Don't thank me yet. Why not? Because this isn't over, Clara. Not by a long shot. He said it like a promise, or a threat. Clara couldn't tell which. The carriage ride home was a blur. By the time she stood on the front steps of her stepfather's house, her prison, she let herself think for the first time, the night felt like a fever dream. But the ache in her chest was real. The hunger for more was real. And when she pushed open the door and found Gregory waiting in the foyer, arms crossed and eyes blazing, she knew that whatever happened next, she couldn't go back to being invisible. Not anymore. Where the hell have you been? He snarled. Clara met his gaze without flinching. Out, she said, and walked past him up the stairs. Behind her, she heard him curse, heard something shatter against the wall. But she didn't stop. For the first time in her life, Clara Whitfield didn't stop. The slap came 3 days later. Clara saw it coming. Gregory's hand rising in a blur of rage and expensive tailoring, but she didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there in the drawing room while her cheek exploded in white-hot pain. You think you can humiliate me? His voice was low, dangerous, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. Walking past me like I'm nothing after I saved you from being a laughingstock? Clara tasted copper. She'd bitten her tongue when his hand connected. You didn't save me. You sold me. The second slap knocked her into the side table. A vase crashed to the floor, scattering roses and water across the carpet. I gave you a roof over your head when your mother died, Gregory hissed, looming over her. I fed you, clothed you, and this is how you repay me? By making me look like a fool in front of Blackthorn? Clara pressed her palm against her cheek, feeling the heat radiating from the skin. Her vision blurred, but she forced herself to look up at him. What did he say to you? Gregory's face twisted. Nothing. That's the problem. He took you, used you for whatever perverted entertainment he had in mind, and then sent you back without a word. Do you have any idea what people are saying? I don't care what people are saying. His laugh was cruel. Of course you don't. You never have. That's why you're unmarriageable. That's why you're worthless. The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have. But something had shifted in Clara during those hours in Rowan's study. Some fundamental understanding that Gregory's opinion of her value was based entirely on how well she could be traded, and she was done being currency. "If I'm so worthless," she said quietly, "why do you keep me here?" Gregory's eyes narrowed. "What? You hate me. You've made that abundantly clear. So why not let me go?" "Because your mother's estate comes with conditions, you stupid girl. I have to maintain you until you're married or you turn 25. Whichever comes first." Clara's mind whirred. She was 22. 3 more years of this unless... "Then marry me off." Gregory smiled. It was the ugliest expression Clara had ever seen. "Oh, I intend to." Something cold slithered down her spine. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm tired of waiting for some fool to overlook your deficiencies. I found someone willing to take you off my hands." Clara's throat went dry. "Who?" "Lord Ashford." The name hit her like a fist. Lord Ashford was 60 if he was a day, with 3 dead wives and a reputation for cruelty that even society's most forgiving gossips couldn't polish. Clara had seen him at parties, watching young women with eyes like a spider sizing up prey. "No." Gregory's smile widened. "It's already arranged. He'll announce the engagement at the Worthington Ball next week." "I won't do it." "You will, or I'll release certain letters your mother wrote before she died. Letters that would destroy what's left of her reputation and ensure your sister never gets within 10 feet of decent society." Clara's hands curled into fists. "You're lying." "Am I?" Gregory pulled a folded paper from his coat pocket and tossed it onto the table. "Read it yourself." Clara's hands trembled as she unfolded the letter. Her mother's handwriting stared back at her, elegant loops and careful strokes that Clara would recognize anywhere. The content made her stomach turn. It was a confession, an admission of an affair that had produced... "Emma isn't father's daughter," Clara whispered. "No. She's the bastard child of some Italian painter your mother spread her legs for." Gregory's voice dripped with satisfaction. "Imagine what society will do with that information. Your sister won't just be unmarriageable, she'll be ruined, completely and utterly ruined." Clara couldn't breathe. Emma was 17. Sweet, naive Emma, who still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. This would destroy her. "You can't." "I can and I will. Unless you marry Ashford quietly, smile pretty, and stop embarrassing me." Gregory leaned in close. "You have until the ball to decide. After that, the letters go public and your sister learns exactly what kind of woman her mother was." He walked out, leaving Clara standing in the wreckage of her world. She lasted exactly 4 minutes before she grabbed her cloak and ran. "Chub." Rowan's butler answered the door with the same impassive expression he'd worn 3 nights ago, as if young women showed up on the doorstep at odd hours regularly. "Miss Whitfield, my lord is in his study." Clara didn't wait for an escort. She knew the way. She found Rowan exactly where she'd left him, surrounded by books, a glass of whiskey in one hand, and a stack of papers in the other. He looked up when she burst in, his expression shifting from surprise to something sharper when he saw her face. "Who hit you?" Clara's hand flew to her cheek. She'd forgotten about the bruise already forming there. "That doesn't matter." Rowan set down his glass with deliberate care and stood. "It matters to me. I need your help." "Clearly." "I'm serious, Rowan. Her voice cracked. "I'm out of options." He crossed to her in 3 strides, his fingers gentle as he tilted her face toward the light. His jaw tightened when he saw the full extent of the damage. "Your stepfather." Clara nodded. "When?" "Today. After It doesn't matter. He's forcing me to marry Lord Ashford." Rowan went very still. "Ashford. You know him?" "Everyone knows him. He's a predator." "I know." Clara pulled away, pacing to the window. "But if I refuse, Gregory will destroy my sister. He has letters. Proof that she's illegitimate. He'll ruin her." "Let him." Clara spun. "What?" "Let him release the letters." "You don't understand. Emma is 17. This would end her life before it starts." Rowan moved to his desk, rifling through a drawer. "How old is your stepfather?" I don't. 52? Why does that? And when did your mother die? 5 years ago. Rowan, what are you? And he married her when? 20 years ago. I was 2. Emma wasn't born yet. Rowan pulled out a folder, flipping it open. Your stepfather is a gambler, Clara. Did you know that? She blinked. What? He's in debt. Deeply. Has been for years. Rowan slid a paper across the desk. He owes nearly £100,000 to various creditors across London. The only thing keeping them from calling in the debts is your mother's estate. Clara's head spun. How do you know this? I make it my business to know things about men who might become problems. He met her eyes. I started looking into Gregory Whitfield the night I bought your time at that auction. I wanted to know what kind of man would humiliate his stepdaughter publicly for entertainment. You've been investigating him? Yes. For 3 days? I'm thorough. Clara stared at the papers spread across his desk. Why? Because I told you I remember everything, Clara. And 3 years ago, when you talked about bridges, you mentioned your mother. You said she used to take you to see construction sites when you were small, that she loved watching things get built. Rowan's voice softened slightly. You don't talk about someone like that and then marry a man like Gregory Whitfield unless you have no choice. Clara's throat closed. She was sick, dying. He offered to marry her, to take care of us. She thought... She swallowed hard. She thought she was protecting us. She was wrong. Don't talk about my mother. I'm not criticizing her. I'm stating a fact. Gregory Whitfield is a parasite. He married your mother for her money, and he's been bleeding the estate dry ever since. Rowan tapped the papers. He needs you married to Ashford because Ashford will pay off his debts in exchange for a young wife. You're not being sold out of cruelty, Clara. You're being sold out of necessity. The clinical way he laid it out should have made it easier to hear. It didn't. That doesn't help me. It does if you're willing to fight back. Clara laughed bitterly. With what? I have nothing. No money, no connections, no... You have me. The words hung in the air between them. Clara shook her head. You can't just fix this with money, Rowan. Gregory has those letters. If I don't marry Ashford, he'll... What if the letters didn't matter? They matter to Emma. What if they didn't matter to anyone? Rowan leaned against his desk, arms crossed. What if you released them yourself? Clara's blood went cold. You can't be serious. Entirely serious. That would ruin her. It would free her. How is destroying my sister's reputation freeing her? Rowan's expression was infuriatingly calm. Because right now Gregory controls the narrative. He decides when the information comes out, how it comes out, and what damage it does. He uses that control to manipulate you. But if you release it first, on your terms, with context and compassion, you take away his power. Clara's hands shook. You're asking me to sacrifice Emma. I'm asking you to trust that your sister is stronger than you think. She's 17. So were you once, and you survived. Barely. But you did. Rowan pushed off the desk. Clara, I know this is terrifying. But playing by Gregory's rules will only keep you trapped. Sometimes the only way to win is to change the game entirely. Clara pressed her palms against her eyes. This is insane. Yes. She'll hate me. Maybe, for a while. And if it doesn't work, if society tears her apart anyway, then we deal with it, together. She dropped her hands. Why do you keep saying we? Because I'm not letting you do this alone. You barely know me. I know enough. You're risking your reputation. I don't care about my reputation. Everyone cares about their reputation. Rowan's smile was thin and sharp. Not people who've already been ruined, Clara. Society decided I was a monster years ago. I've simply stopped arguing with them. There was a story there. Something dark and painful that lived behind his eyes. But Clara didn't have time to excavate it. What happened to you? She asked again. Later. Right now, we need to plan. Plan what? Your escape. What? They worked through the night. Rowan sent for his solicitor, a wiry man named Pemberton, who arrived at 2 a.m. without complaint and listened to Clara's story with the detached interest of someone who'd heard worse. The letters are leverage, Pemberton said, adjusting his spectacles. but they're also evidence of blackmail. If we can prove Mr. Whitfield is using them to coerce you into an unwanted marriage—" "He'll just deny it," Clara interrupted. "It's his word against mine." "Not if we have witnesses." Rowan leaned forward. "What kind of witnesses?" Pemberton smiled. "The kind who attend balls and listen to gossip. If Lord Ashford announces an engagement to a clearly unwilling bride, people will talk. And if Miss Whitfield can make it abundantly clear she's being forced—" "I can't make a scene at the Worthington ball," Clara said. "Gregory will release the letters immediately." "Then we release them first," Rowan said. Pemberton nodded. "It's risky, but it could work. If Miss Whitfield frames the revelation as an act of honesty rather than scandal, if she expresses compassion for her mother and protection for her sister, society might be more forgiving than expected." "Or they might crucify us both," Clara said. "Possibly." "Definitely." Rowan's hand covered hers on the desk. "Clara, look at me." She did. "You're already in danger. Gregory has made that clear. The question isn't whether you'll be hurt. It's whether you'll have any agency in what happens next." His fingers tightened slightly. "I'm offering you a chance to fight back. It might fail, but at least you'll fail on your own terms." Clara's breath came faster. Everything in her screamed to run, to hide, to make herself small and hope Gregory forgot about her. But she was so tired of being small. "All right," she whispered. "What do we do?" The plan was insane. Clara would go back to Gregory's house and play the obedient stepdaughter for exactly 4 days. During that time, Rowan and Pemberton would gather evidence of Gregory's debts, his gambling, and his attempts to sell Clara to Ashford. They'd also draft a statement, Clara's statement, explaining the truth about Emma's parentage with enough compassion and context to soften the blow. On the night of the Worthington ball, Clara would arrive with Gregory as expected. But instead of allowing Ashford to announce their engagement, she would stand up in front of everyone and read the statement herself. Then all hell would break loose. "You'll need somewhere to go after," Pemberton said. "Mr. Whitfield will not allow you back into his house." "She'll stay here," Rowan said. Clara's head snapped up. "I can't." "You can and you will. I have more than enough space and my housekeeper is discreet." "People will talk." "People are already talking. It's not proper." "Clara!" Rowan's voice cut through her panic. "Do you honestly care about propriety right now?" She wanted to say yes. She wanted to cling to the rules that had kept her safe, or at least invisible, for so long. But those rules had failed her. "No," she admitted. "I don't." "Good. Then it's settled." Pemberton gathered his papers. "I'll begin compiling the evidence. We'll need witnesses willing to testify about Mr. Whitfield's debts and Lord Ashford's reputation. That won't be difficult. Both men have made enemies." After Pemberton left, Clara sat in silence, staring at the fire. "You should sleep," Rowan said. "I can't." "When's the last time you slept?" Clara couldn't remember. "What if this doesn't work?" "Then we try something else." "And if there is no something else?" Rowan moved to sit beside her. "Then we make one." She looked at him, really looked at him. The sharp lines of his face, the scar above his eyebrow, the way his eyes held something ancient and weary despite his relative youth. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "I told you." "No, the real reason." Rowan was quiet for a long moment. "Because no one helped me when I needed it, and I've spent the last 10 years wondering what would have happened if they had." "What happened to you?" His jaw tightened. "My father sold me too, just in a different way." Clara's breath caught. "Rowan, not tonight." He stood abruptly. "You should rest. Tomorrow, we start preparing your statement." He was closing off, pulling back into himself. Clara recognized the gesture. She'd done it 1,000 times herself. "Thank you," she said quietly. He paused at the door. "Don't thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better." "I know." "You'll be hated, both of you." "I know. And you're still willing to do this?" Clara thought of Emma. Sweet, trusting Emma, who deserved better than a sister too afraid to protect her. "Yes," Rowan nodded. "Then we have work to do." Well, the next 4 days were the longest of Clara's life. She went back to Gregory's house and played her role perfectly. Quiet, obedient, broken. Gregory watched her with suspicious eyes, but Clara kept her head down and her mouth shut. Emma noticed something was wrong. "Are you all right?" her sister asked one evening, finding Clara in the library. Clara forced a smile. "Of course." "You've been strange lately, ever since the auction." Emma sat beside her, tucking her legs under her dress. "What happened with Lord Blackthorne?" "Nothing." "Clara." "Emma, please, I can't." Clara's voice cracked. "I need you to trust me." Emma's face crumpled. "What's wrong? Did he hurt you?" No, nothing like that." Clara grabbed her sister's hands. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting." Emma's eyes widened. "You're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry. But I need you to hear this from me first." Clara took a shaky breath. "At the Worthington Ball, something is going to happen. Something big. And people are going to say terrible things about Mother, about you." "What kind of things?" Clara's throat tightened. "Things about your father. About who he really was." Emma went very still. "I don't understand." "You will. Soon. And when you do, I need you to know that I did this to protect you, even if it doesn't feel that way." "Claire, you're not making sense." "I know." Clara squeezed her sister's hands. "But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Emma searched her face. "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid and brave and probably catastrophic." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I can give you right now." Emma pulled her hands away. "You're going to ruin us, aren't you?" Clara's heart broke. "I'm going to save us." "That's not the same thing." "Sometimes it is." Emma stood, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand any of this." "You will, after the ball. And then you can hate me if you need to." "I could never hate you." "Don't make promises you can't keep." Emma left, sobbing. Clara sat alone in the library and let herself cry for the first time in years. The night of the Worthington Ball arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. Clara dressed in white, a deliberate choice. Innocent, pure. Everything society would expect from a young woman about to be engaged. Gregory seemed pleased. "You look almost presentable." Clara said nothing. The ballroom was magnificent, all crystal chandeliers and polished marble, filled with London's elite in their finest clothes. Clara moved through it like a ghost, Gregory's hand tight on her arm. Lord Ashford found them within minutes. "Miss Whitfield." His voice was oil-slick and rotting wood. "You look lovely." Clara's skin crawled. "Thank you, my lord. Shall we dance?" "Actually," Gregory began. "I'd prefer not to," Clara said. Both men stared at her. "Excuse me?" Ashford's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I said I'd prefer not to dance." Gregory's fingers dug into her arm. "Clara." "It's quite all right," Ashford said smoothly. "We'll have plenty of time for dancing after the announcement." Clara's pulse hammered. This was it. Once Ashford announced their engagement, there would be no taking it back. She scanned the crowd for Rowan, found him near the orchestra, watching her with those pale gray eyes. He nodded once. Clara took a breath and pulled away from Gregory. "Actually," she said, loud enough to draw attention, "there's something I need to say first." Gregory's face went white. "Clara, don't—" "I'm not engaged to Lord Ashford." The music faltered. Conversations died. Every eye in the room turned to her. Ashford's smile curdled. "I beg your pardon? I'm not engaged to you. I won't be engaged to you, and I need everyone here to know why." Gregory lunged for her, but Rowan was faster. He stepped between them, his presence a physical wall. "Let her speak," Rowan said quietly. Clara's hand shook as she pulled the folded paper from her bodice. Her statement, her truth. "My stepfather has been blackmailing me," she said, her voice gaining strength. "He's been using letters written by my mother to force me into a marriage I don't want. Letters that contain painful truths about my family." The crowd murmured. Clara pressed on. "Rather than let him control how this information comes out, I'm choosing to share it myself. My sister Emma," her voice cracked. "Emma is not my father's daughter. She's the child of an affair my mother had before she died. This makes Emma illegitimate in the eyes of society." Gasps rippled through the room. Clara saw Emma near the back, her face crumbling. I know this will hurt her. I know this will hurt both of us. But I won't let my stepfather use this truth as a weapon anymore. I won't marry a man I don't know to protect a secret that was never mine to keep. Clara's hand stopped shaking. My mother made choices that were complicated and human and flawed. She loved us both. That's what matters. Not bloodlines, not legitimacy. Love. The silence was deafening. Then Gregory laughed. You stupid, foolish girl, you've just destroyed yourself. Maybe, Clara said, but at least I did it on my own terms. Ashford's face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. I doubt it. He stepped toward her, but Rowan shifted, and something in his expression made Ashford stop cold. Touch her, Rowan said softly, and I'll kill you. He said it like a fact, not a threat, a certainty. Ashford paled and backed away. Gregory grabbed Clara's arm, his fingers bruising. You think this makes you free? You've ruined your sister, ruined yourself. You'll never... Actually, Pemberton's voice cut through the chaos. She's freed herself from a blackmailer and exposed a conspiracy between you and Lord Ashford to coerce her into marriage. He held up a folder. I have documentation of your debts, Mr. Whitfield. I also have 3 witnesses willing to testify that Lord Ashford offered to pay those debts in exchange for Miss Whitfield's hand. That's not courtship. That's human trafficking. Gregory's face went purple. You can't prove... I can, and I will, in court if necessary. The crowd erupted. Clara felt Rowan's hand on her back, steady and sure. We need to go, he murmured. Clara nodded. She looked for Emma one last time and found her sister staring at her with an expression Clara couldn't read. Hurt, confusion. Maybe, just maybe, something like understanding. Then Rowan was leading her through the crowd, past the whispers and stares, out into the night. Clara didn't look back. She'd just blown up her entire life, and somehow she'd never felt more alive. The carriage wheels hit a rut, and Clara slammed against the side panel, her teeth clacking together hard enough to make her eyes water. Rowan's hand shot out to steady her, but she barely registered the touch. Her entire body was vibrating, adrenaline, terror, something that felt dangerously close to triumph. Did that really just happen? Her voice sounded strange, thin, like it belonged to someone else. Rowan didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the window, watching the dark streets blur past. His jaw was tight, and Clara realized with a start that he was angry. What's wrong? Ashford. What about him? The way he looked at you when we left. Rowan's knuckles were white where they gripped his cane. Like you were prey that got away. Clara's stomach turned. He can't do anything now. You said... I said we'd expose him. I didn't say he'd accept defeat gracefully. Rowan finally looked at her. Men like Ashford don't lose well, Clara, especially not in front of an audience. The triumph drained out of her, replaced by something colder. You think he'll retaliate? I know he will. The carriage pulled up to Rowan's townhouse. Clara barely waited for it to stop before she was stumbling out, desperate for air that didn't smell like expensive perfume and ruined reputations. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. Rowan caught her before she hit the cobblestones. I've got you. Clara wanted to argue, to insist she could stand on her own, but her body had other ideas. She sagged against him, and he half carried her up the steps and through the door. Inside, the housekeeper, Mrs. Davies, a woman with iron gray hair and a face that gave nothing away, took one look at Clara and disappeared. She returned moments later with tea and something stronger. Drink, Rowan ordered, pressing a glass into Clara's hands. She drank. The whiskey burned going down, but it cleared her head enough to think. Emma, she said suddenly, I need to... Pemberton is handling it. He'll make sure she gets somewhere safe. Safe from what? I'm the one who destroyed her life. You freed her from Gregory's control. By making her a scandal. Clara's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the glass. She'll never forgive me. She might surprise you. Or she might hate me forever. Those seem like the only 2 options right now. Rowan took the glass from her and set it aside. Clara, look at me. She did. His eyes were softer than she'd ever seen them. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It rarely does, not at first. Clara's throat closed. The weight of what she'd done was starting to sink in, really sink in. She'd just stood in front of London's elite and announced her family's most shameful secret. She'd humiliated her sister, destroyed any chance either of them had at normal lives, and for what? To escape a marriage she could have just endured? I should have married him, she whispered. No, it would have been easier. Easier isn't the same as better. Emma would still have a future. Emma will have a future. Just a different one than you imagined. Clara pressed her hands over her face. You don't know that. I know that your sister is smart and resilient. I know that because she's your sister. Rowan's voice was steady, grounding. And I know that sometimes the only way to build something new is to burn down what's already there. Is that what you did? The question hung between them. Rowan stood abruptly. You should rest. Stop doing that. Doing what? Deflecting. Every time I ask about you, you shut down. This isn't about me. Maybe it should be. Clara rose on unsteady legs. You keep talking about burning things down, about being ruined, but you won't tell me how. You won't tell me why you're helping me. I told you. You told me a version, not the truth. Rowan's expression went carefully blank. The truth isn't pretty. Neither is mine. I just proved that. He studied her for a long moment. Then, with what looked like physical effort, he crossed to the sideboard and poured himself a drink. He downed it in one swallow and poured another. My father was a diplomat, he said finally. Respected. Connected. He spent most of my childhood traveling between courts, making deals, building relationships. His laugh was bitter. Including with men who had certain tastes. Clara's blood went cold. Rowan, I was 16 when he first offered me as an incentive. Not openly. He was subtler than that, but he made it clear that my cooperation would be appreciated, that it would help the family, that it was my duty. The glass in Rowan's hand cracked. He set it down carefully, blood welling up from a small cut on his palm. How long? Clara's voice was barely a whisper. 2 years. Until I was 18 and inherited my mother's estate. The moment I had my own money, I cut him off completely. Rowan's eyes were distant, seeing something Clara couldn't. He died 6 months later. Heart failure. I didn't attend the funeral. Clara crossed the room and took his bleeding hand in hers. I'm sorry. Don't be. I survived. That's not the same as being okay. No, it's not. Rowan looked down at their joined hands. But it's better than the alternative. Clara understood then, really understood, why he'd helped her. Why he'd spent 3 days investigating Gregory. Why he'd been willing to risk his reputation and his safety to give her a choice, because no one had given him one. Thank you, she said quietly, for telling me. Don't thank me. I just made you complicit in my damage. We're all damaged. At least we can be honest about it. Rowan's mouth curved slightly. When did you get so wise? About 3 hours ago when I committed social suicide in front of 200 people. He laughed, a real laugh, raw and unexpected. Fair enough. Mrs. Davies appeared in the doorway. My lord, there's a young woman at the door. Says she's Miss Whitfield's sister. Clara's heart stopped. Emma? She's quite insistent about seeing you. Clara looked at Rowan. He nodded. Show her in. Emma looked like she'd been crying for hours. Her eyes were swollen, her dress rumpled, and her hair was half falling out of its pins. When she saw Clara, she froze. Emma, Clara started. Emma slapped her. The crack echoed through the study. Clara's head snapped to the side, her cheek burning. She'd earned that. She deserved worse. How could you? Emma's voice broke. How could you do that to me? I'm sorry. Sorry? You stood up in front of everyone and told them I'm a bastard. You destroyed Mother's memory. You ruined everything. Emma was sobbing now, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Why? Why would you do that? Clara's own eyes burned. Because Gregory was going to use it to control me, to force me to marry Lord Ashford. I couldn't, so you sacrificed me instead? I freed us both. You freed yourself. I'm the one who has to live with this. I'm the one everyone will be whispering about. Emma's hands curled into fists. Did you even think about what this would do to me? I thought about nothing else. Liar. The word hit harder than the slap. Clara took a shaky breath. Emma, listen to me. Gregory wasn't going to stop. He was going to use those letters to control both of us for the rest of our lives. Every choice we made would have been under his shadow. This way, I'm publicly humiliated and you get to play the hero. There's nothing heroic about this. No, there's not. Emma wiped her eyes roughly. I trusted you. I thought you'd protect me. I am protecting you. From what? A normal life? A chance at happiness? From a cage. Clara moved closer, but Emma backed away. Emma, please. I know this hurts. I know you're angry, but you're free now. We both are. Free to what? Be outcasts? Have people cross the street when they see us coming? Emma's laugh was jagged. You call that freedom? Rowan spoke from the shadows. Better to be free and hated than trapped and accepted. Emma's head whipped toward him. Who asked you? No one. But I'm saying it anyway. Rowan stepped into the light. Your sister just committed the bravest act I've ever witnessed. She chose truth over safety, honor over comfort. And yes, it cost you something, but it cost her more. How do you figure that? Because she has to live with the knowledge that she hurt you. That's a heavier burden than anything society can inflict. Emma looked between them, something shifting in her expression. You love her. Clara's breath caught. Rowan didn't flinch. I respect her. That's rarer and more valuable. Emma studied him for a long moment. Then she turned back to Clara. I need time. I understand. I don't know if I can forgive you. I know. But I don't have anywhere else to go. Emma's voice cracked. Gregory threw me out, said I wasn't his responsibility anymore. So if you're offering sanctuary, I'll take it, but don't mistake that for forgiveness. Clara's heart broke and mended simultaneously. You can stay as long as you need. Mrs. Davies will show you to a room, Rowan said quietly. Emma nodded and followed the housekeeper out without looking back. Clara waited until the door closed before she let herself collapse into a chair. That went well. She didn't leave. She hates me. She's hurt. That's different. Is it? Rowan poured her another drink. She came here, Clara. Even after what you did, she came to you. That means something. Clara wanted to believe him, but the look in Emma's eyes, that mixture of betrayal and grief, was going to haunt her. What do we do now? She asked. We wait. Ashford and Gregory won't let this go quietly. They'll retaliate, and we need to be ready. Ready how? I'm working on that. Clara drained her glass. The whiskey didn't help. Nothing helped. She just destroyed her life, her sister's life, and any chance at normalcy either of them had ever had. And the worst part? She'd do it again. The first letter arrived 3 days later. Clara was in Rowan's library, attempting to read, when Pemberton appeared with a grim expression and a cream-colored envelope. This was delivered by private messenger, he said. Addressed to you. Clara took it with trembling fingers. The handwriting was elegant, controlled, nothing like Gregory's angry scrawl. She opened it. Miss Whitfield, you have made a grievous error. I do not take kindly to public humiliation, particularly from women who presume to refuse me. You will regret your actions at the Worthington ball. I will see to it personally. Regards, Lord Ashford. Clara's hands went numb. He's threatening me. Pemberton nodded. I expected as much. May I? She handed him the letter. He read it twice, his expression darkening. This is actionable. We can take it to the authorities. And say what? Clara's voice was hollow. That a lord is unhappy with me? They'll laugh us out of the room. Not if we have evidence of intent to harm. It's a vague threat, nothing concrete. Rowan appeared in the doorway, took one look at their faces, and crossed the room in 3 strides. What happened? Pemberton handed him the letter. Rowan read it once. His expression went arctic. He's not going to touch you. You can't know that. I can, and I will ensure it. Rowan folded the letter carefully. Pemberton, I need you to find out everything about Ashford's business dealings. Every contract, every investment, every person he's crossed. If he has skeletons, I want them dug up and put on display. That could take weeks. Then work faster. Pemberton nodded and left. Clara felt like she was watching the scene from underwater. This is spiraling. Yes. What if we can't stop it? Then we don't stop it. We redirect it. How? Rowan's smile was sharp enough to cut. By making sure that if Ashford comes at us, he destroys himself in the process. The second letter arrived that evening. This one was from Gregory. No flowery language, just 3 sentences. You owe me £50,000 for breach of contract with Lord Ashford. Pay it within the week, or I will sue. You have nothing. You are nothing. Clara crumpled the letter in her fist. He's insane. I never signed a contract. He likely forged one. Rowan took the paper from her and smoothed it out. Or had Ashford forge one. Either way, it's a pressure tactic. Can he actually sue me? He can try. He'll lose, but the process will be humiliating and expensive. I don't have £50,000. I don't have anything. You have me? Clara looked up sharply. I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. Rowan, that's necessary, strategic, and non-negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. If Gregory wants a legal battle, he'll get one, but not the one he's expecting. Clara's chest tightened. Why are you doing all this? I told you. No, really. Why are you willing to burn money and reputation and safety for someone you barely know? Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Because when I was your age, trapped in my father's house, no one helped me. And I swore that if I ever had the power to help someone else, I would. That's not a reason. That's a justification. It's the only one I have. Clara studied his face, the careful blankness, the rigid control. You're lying. Excuse me? You're lying, or at least not telling me everything. She stepped closer. What aren't you saying? Rowan's jaw tightened. Clara, tell me the truth. Not the version you think I want to hear, the actual truth. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then something in his expression cracked. Because you remind me of what I lost, he said quietly. Before my father broke me, I used to think about buildings, bridges, things that could stand up to pressure and time. I used to think I could build something that mattered. His voice went rough. You still think that way. Even after everything, you still have that spark, and He stopped. I couldn't save myself, but maybe I can help save you. Clara's breath caught. I'm not your redemption, Rowan. I know. And I don't need saving. I know that too. Then why? Because I want to. Because for the first time in 10 years, I actually give a damn about something other than surviving. His eyes met hers. Because you're brilliant and brave, and you deserve better than what the world has given you. Clara's heart hammered. That's not... The window exploded. Glass shattered inward in a spray of glittering shards. Clara felt something hot streak past her cheek, too close, too fast. Rowan tackled her to the ground, his body covering hers as more glass rained down. Stay down, he hissed. Clara's ears rang. She tasted blood. What? Someone shooting at us! Another crack. Another window. This time Clara saw the muzzle flash from across the street, a shadow in a second-story window. Rowan dragged her behind the desk. Are you hit? Clara took inventory. Her cheek stung where the glass had cut her, but otherwise... No. You? I'm fine. He was already moving, crossing to the wall where he yanked down a sword that had been hanging decoratively. Stay here. What are you doing? Ending this. Rowan, no! But he was already gone, moving through the house with terrifying speed. Clara's hands shook as she pressed them against her bleeding cheek. This was real. Someone had just tried to kill them. Ashford or Gregory or both. It didn't matter. They'd escalated from threats to action, and Clara had no idea how to fight back. Footsteps in the hall. Clara grabbed a letter opener from the desk, her breath coming in short gasps. Mrs. Davies appeared, impossibly calm. Miss Whitfield, come with me. Rowan, Lord Blackthorne can handle himself. You cannot. Follow me, now. Clara followed. Mrs. Davies led her through a series of corridors to a room Clara had never seen before. Inside was Emma, white-faced and trembling. What's happening? Her sister demanded. Someone attacked us. Who? I don't know. Emma grabbed Clara's shoulders. Are you hurt? I'm fine. You're bleeding. It's just glass. Emma, If you say you're fine one more time, I'll hit you again. Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. Fair enough. They waited in silence, listening to sounds from the house. Shouting, running. At one point, a gunshot, closer this time, inside the building. Emma's hand found Clara's. I'm still angry at you. I know. But I don't want you dead. That's progress. Emma's laugh was shaky. If we survive this, we need to have a very long conversation about your decision-making skills. Deal! More footsteps. The door burst open. Rowan stood there, breathing hard, blood on his shirt. But he was standing, alive. It's over. Clara sagged with relief. Did you catch them? No, they ran when they realized I was armed. His eyes scanned her face, cataloging damage. We need to leave, tonight. Leave to where? I have an estate in the north, remote, defensible. We'll go there until this blows over. It's not going to blow over, Clara said. Ashford won't stop, neither will Gregory. Then we make them stop. How? Rowan's smile was cold. By giving them exactly what they want. Clara frowned. I don't understand. You will. Pack what you need. We leave in an hour. He turned to go, but Clara grabbed his arm. Rowan, what are you planning? His eyes met hers, and Clara saw something in them that made her blood run cold. I'm planning to burn them both to the ground, he said quietly, even if I have to burn with them. Clara caught his wrist before he could walk away. No. Rowan stopped. Clara. No. You don't get to make that decision without me. Her grip tightened. If you're burning, I'm burning with you. But we're not doing anything until you tell me the actual plan. There's no time. Make time. They stared at each other. Emma watched from the doorway, eyes wide. Finally, Rowan exhaled. Fine. But not here. In the carriage. 45 minutes later, they were rattling through the dark streets of London in Rowan's largest carriage. 3 trunks strapped to the back, and Pemberton riding up front with the driver. Clara sat across from Rowan, Emma pressed against her side. Mrs. Davies had stayed behind to manage the house and field any inquiries. Talk, Clara said. Rowan pulled out a folder from the seat beside him. Pemberton's been busy. Ashford has financial interests in 3 shipping companies, 2 textile mills, and a railroad venture in the north. Most of it is leveraged. He's borrowed heavily to maintain his lifestyle and investments. That's not unusual for a lord. No, but what is unusual is who he borrowed from. Rowan slid a paper across. Marcus Hewitt. Ever heard of him? Clara scanned the document. No. Most people haven't. He prefers it that way. Hewitt runs a private lending operation that caters to men who can't get credit through traditional banks. The interest rates are criminal, but he's protected by the people who owe him money, judges, politicians, men with power who need him quiet. And Ashford owes him? Nearly £80,000, due in 6 weeks. Emma leaned forward. How did you find this out in 3 days? I didn't. I've been collecting information on Ashford for 2 years. Clara's head snapped up. 2 years? Why? 'Cause he tried to buy me once. When I was 19. Rowan's voice was flat. My father owed him a favor. Ashford suggested a way to settle the debt. I refused. My father didn't take that well. The carriage hit another rut. No one spoke for a long moment. What happened? Emma asked quietly. I broke Ashford's nose and 2 ribs. Then I broke my father's wrist when he tried to force the issue. Rowan's eyes were distant. After that, I made it my mission to know everything about every man who might try to use me again. Ashford's been in my files ever since. Clara's throat tightened. So you've been waiting for this? I've been preparing. There's a difference. And now? What's the plan? Rowan leaned back. Ashford needs money desperately. If he defaults on Hewitt's loan, he'll lose everything. His estates, his investments, his title. Hewitt will strip him clean and leave him begging on the street. Good, Emma muttered. It would be. Except Hewitt isn't patient, and he's about to demand payment, which means Ashford is about to do something very stupid to get that money. Clara understood. The forged contract with Gregory. Exactly. He'll try to enforce it, Sue you for breach, demand the £50,000, and hope you'll settle out of court to avoid scandal. But I don't have £50,000. No, but I do. Rowan's smile was sharp, and that's what he's counting on. He assumes I'll pay to protect you, which gives him the money he needs to pay Hewitt. Emma frowned. So don't pay. Let him sue. That would take months, during which he and Gregory will make your lives hell. No, we end this faster. Rowan tapped the folder. We go to Hewitt first. Clara's blood went cold. You want us to meet with a criminal loan shark? I want us to make him a deal. Ashford's collateral for his loan is his shipping interests, 3 companies worth considerably more than £80,000. But Hewitt can't collect until Ashford defaults, so we make sure he defaults. How? By destroying his cash flow before he can pay. Rowan pulled out another document. Ashford's largest shipping contract is with the East India Trading Company. It's worth £40,000 a year, paid quarterly. Next payment is due in 2 weeks. If that contract gets cancelled, Ashford won't have the cash to pay Hewitt. Clara's mind raced. You want to sabotage his business relationship with the East India Company. Not sabotage. Expose. Ashford's been skimming profits from that contract for years. The company doesn't know because he's been falsifying cargo manifests and bribing dock supervisors. I have proof. I told you, I've been preparing. Emma looked between them. This is insane. Yes, Rowan agreed. We could all end up in prison. Possibly. And you think this will work? I think it's the only move that shifts the power back to us. Rowan met Emma's eyes. Your sister exposed herself to save you. Gregory and Ashford responded by trying to kill us. I'm not interested in defense anymore. I'm interested in making sure they can't hurt anyone ever again. Emma chewed her lip. What do you need us to do? Stay alive, stay hidden, and trust me. I don't trust anyone. Smart girl. Rowan's mouth quirked. But I'm not anyone. I'm the man who's kept your sister alive for the past week. That should count for something. Emma looked at Clara. What do you think? Clara thought about the bullets through the window, about Gregory's threats and Ashford's cold eyes, about the fact that doing nothing would only give them more time to strike. I think we fight, she said. Rowan's northern estate was less an estate and more a fortified manor house perched on a cliff overlooking the sea. The wind howled around the stone walls, and salt spray left everything damp and cold. It was the most beautiful prison Clara had ever seen. They arrived just before dawn. Pemberton had ridden ahead and already had fires lit in 3 rooms. Clara and Emma were shown to adjoining chambers while Rowan disappeared into his study. Emma collapsed onto the bed in Clara's room. I can't believe this is happening. Neither can I. Do you think he's right? About all of it? Clara moved to the window. Below, waves crashed against black rocks. I think he's the only person who's tried to help us without asking for something in return. He wants something. What? Emma gave her a look. You're not that naive. Clara's cheeks heated. It's not like that, isn't it? He looks at you like you're the only person in the room. He spent 2 years collecting information on Ashford. He's risking everything to protect us. Emma sat up. That's not strategy, Clara. That's don't. Why not? Because it's complicated and dangerous, and I can't afford to think about it right now. Emma studied her. You care about him. I barely know him. That's not an answer. Clara pressed her forehead against the cold glass. He's damaged, Emma. Broken in ways I don't fully understand. Getting involved with him would be what? A mistake? Because from where I'm standing, he's the only person who's seen you as something other than a problem to be solved. That doesn't mean, Clara, Emma's voice softened. For once in your life, stop overthinking everything and just feel. Before Clara could respond, there was a knock. Rowan stood in the doorway, still in his traveling clothes, exhaustion written across his face. We need to talk. Emma stood. I'll give you privacy. Actually, I need both of you. Rowan gestured toward the stairs. Study. Now. They followed him down to a room lined with maps and documents. Pemberton was already there, looking grim. What happened? Clara asked. Hewitt responded to my inquiry. Rowan held up a letter. He's willing to meet tomorrow night in London. That fast? He's motivated. Ashford missed a payment last week. Hewitt's already looking for ways to collect. Rowan set the letter down. But there's a complication. Of course there is. Pemberton cleared his throat. Marcus Hewitt doesn't do business with strangers. He requires an introduction from someone he trusts. Someone who can vouch for you. Clara's stomach sank. And who can vouch for us? That's the problem. The only people Hewitt trusts are people deeply embedded in London's criminal networks. People I don't have easy access to. So we're stuck. Not necessarily. Rowan exchanged a look with Pemberton. There's one person who might help, but asking her for a favor is complicated. Her? Emma asked. Lady Marguerite Beaumont. She runs one of the most exclusive gaming houses in London. Hewitt is a regular patron. If anyone can get us an introduction, it's her. Clara frowned. Why is that complicated? Rowan's jaw tightened. Because I destroyed her brother 5 years ago. Financially ruined him in a business deal. He killed himself 6 months later. She's hated me ever since. The room went silent. You never mentioned that, Clara said carefully. It's not something I'm proud of. Did he deserve it? He tried to blackmail me using information about my father. So yes. But that doesn't change the fact that Marguerite blames me for his death. Emma whistled softly. And you think she'll help us anyway? No, but she might help Clara. Clara blinked. What? Marguerite respects boldness, courage, the kind of calculated risk you took at the Worthington ball. Rowan looked at Clara. If you go to her, if you explain what's happening and ask for help directly, she might listen. Or she might throw me out. That's the risk. Clara's mind whirled. When would I need to go? Tonight. We'd leave within the hour, arrive by midnight. Marguerite's gaming house operates late. We'd request an audience and you'd make your case. This is insane, Emma said. You're asking her to walk into a criminal establishment and beg for help from a woman who hates you? Yes. What if it goes wrong? Then we find another way. What if there is no other way? Rowan's eyes stayed on Clara. Then we lose. Ashford gets his money, pays off Hewitt, and comes after us with everything he has. Gregory walks free, and you spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders. Clara's hands were shaking. This was madness. All of it. But what choice did they have? I'll do it, she said. Emma grabbed her arm. Clara, I'll do it. Rowan's right. We need Hewitt to pressure Ashford, and we need Marguerite to get to Hewitt. It's the only move that makes sense. It's dangerous. Everything is dangerous right now. Clara squeezed her sister's hand. But I'm tired of running. I'm tired of being afraid. If this doesn't work, at least I'll know I tried. Rowan nodded slowly. Then we leave in 30 minutes. The carriage ride back to London was tense and silent. Clara watched the countryside blur past, her mind spinning through 1,000 scenarios, none of them good. What do I say to her? She asked finally. Rowan didn't look away from the window. The truth. Marguerite values honesty above everything else. Tell her what Ashford did, what Gregory did. Tell her why you need her help. And if she refuses, then you convince her otherwise. How? By showing her that you're not like the people who usually ask her for favors. By proving you're willing to risk something to get what you need. Clara's throat tightened. You're asking me to gamble. I'm asking you to trust yourself. They arrived at Marguerite's establishment just after midnight. It was tucked into a quiet square in Mayfair, looking from the outside like any other townhouse. But inside was opulence Clara had never imagined. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables where men and women in evening wear played cards and dice for sums that made her dizzy. Servants moved silently through the rooms with champagne and whiskey. In one corner, a string quartet played something soft and melancholic. A woman appeared at Rowan's elbow, tall, elegant, with silver hair and eyes like cut glass. Lord Blackthorne. How unexpected. Lady Marguerite, I need a word. I'm quite sure you do, but I'm not interested in giving you one. Her gaze shifted to Clara. Who's this? Clara Whitfield. She's the one who needs your help. Marguerite's expression didn't change. Why should I help anyone associated with you? Clara stepped forward before Rowan could answer. Because I'm not him, and because what I'm asking for has nothing to do with whatever happened between you. Marguerite's eyebrows rose. Bold. Desperate, actually. But I'll take bold if it gets me 5 minutes of your time. Something flickered in Marguerite's eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or curiosity. 5 minutes. My office. Alone. Rowan started to protest, but Clara shook her head. I'll be fine. Marguerite's office was smaller than Clara expected, lined with ledgers and smelling faintly of tobacco. She sat behind a desk and gestured for Clara to sit across from her. Talk. Clara told her everything. The auction, Ashford's threats, Gregory's blackmail. The bullets through the window. She didn't embellish, didn't plead, just laid out the facts as cleanly as she could. When she finished, Marguerite was quiet for a long moment. And you want me to introduce you to Marcus Hewitt? Yes. So you can manipulate him into destroying Lord Ashford. So I can give him information that allows him to collect a debt Ashford already owes. Semantics. Maybe. But accurate semantics. Marguerite smiled slightly. You're sharper than you look. I get that a lot. Why should I help you? Ashford is a patron here, a valuable one. Because he's also a predator who's tried to buy women like their property, and because you strike me as someone who doesn't tolerate that kind of behavior. You presume a great deal about my values. I'm gambling on them, just like everyone else in this building. Marguerite leaned back, studying Clara with unnerving intensity. Rowan Blackthorne destroyed my brother. Did he tell you that? Yes. And you still trust him? Clara met her gaze steadily. I trust that he had his reasons, just like I'm sure your brother had his. My brother was a fool, but he was my fool. Marguerite's voice went cold. Blackthorne didn't just ruin him financially. He humiliated him, made him a laughingstock. My brother couldn't live with that shame. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes, but I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm asking you to help me stop two men who are considerably worse. Marguerite was silent for a long moment. Then she opened a drawer and pulled out a card. Marcus Hewitt will be here tomorrow night. Upstairs room, 9 o'clock. I'll make sure you get in. Clara's breath caught. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Hewitt is not a kind man. If you waste his time, you'll regret it. Understood. Marguerite stood, signaling the conversation was over. But at the door, Clara paused. Why are you helping me? Marguerite's smile was sharp. Because you remind me of myself 20 years ago, before I learned that boldness without power is just another word for foolishness. She opened the door. Don't make my mistakes, Miss Whitfield. Don't let men like Blackthorne turn you into someone you don't recognize. Clara didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded and left. Rowan was waiting in the hall. Well, we're in, tomorrow night. His shoulders sagged with relief. What did you tell her? The truth, like you said. Clara studied his face. She still hates you. I know. She thinks you'll corrupt me. She might be right. Clara grabbed his hand. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Rowan. I'm asking you to be honest. Can you do that? He looked down at their joined hands. I can try. Then that's enough. The next night, Clara stood outside the upstairs room at Marguerite's establishment, her heart hammering against her ribs. Rowan stood beside her, Pemberton behind them with a folder full of evidence. Remember, Rowan said quietly, Hewitt respects strength. Don't plead. Don't apologize. Just present the facts and let him draw his own conclusions. Clara nodded. Her mouth was dry. What if he doesn't believe us? He will. The documents don't lie. The door opened. A man stood there, average height, unremarkable features, wearing an expensive suit that didn't quite hide the hardness underneath. Miss Whitfield, Lord Blackthorne, come in. Marcus Hewitt's office was sparse. A desk, 2 chairs, nothing on the walls. He sat behind the desk and gestured for them to sit. You have 5 minutes. Use them wisely. Clara slid the folder across the desk. Lord Ashford owes you £80,000, due in 5 weeks. 4 weeks now. But yes, he doesn't have it, and he won't be able to get it. Hewitt's expression didn't change. That's his problem. It's about to become yours. Ashford's planning to sue me for breach of contract, a contract that doesn't actually exist. He's hoping to extort £50,000 from Lord Blackthorne to make up the shortfall. And? And we have proof that Ashford's been embezzling from the East India Trading Company, falsifying manifests, skimming profits, bribing officials. Clara tapped the folder. If that information reaches the right people, his contract gets canceled, his largest source of income disappears, and he defaults on your loan. Hewitt opened the folder. Read in silence for 2 full minutes. Then he looked up. Why bring this to me? Because when Ashford defaults, you'll seize his assets, his shipping companies, his estates, all of it. Clara leaned forward. We don't want his money. We want him destroyed. You want your investment protected. This gives us both what we need. Hewitt's eyes were flat, calculating. And what stops me from simply demanding payment now, forcing him to sell assets to cover the debt? Nothing. But that leaves him with enough to rebuild, to come after us again. If you let him default, you take everything. He's left with nothing. No power, no influence, no ability to hurt anyone. You're asking me to be patient. I'm asking you to be thorough. Hewitt smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You're either very brave or very stupid, Miss Whitfield. I've been told both. He closed the folder. I'll consider it. That's not good enough. Hewitt's smile vanished. Excuse me? We need a commitment. Ashford and my stepfather are actively trying to kill us. We don't have time for consider it. Clara's voice was steady despite the fear clawing at her throat. You want your money. We want Ashford neutralized. Help us make that happen, and you'll get your £80,000 plus everything else he owns. Refuse, and Ashford finds a way to pay you, and all you get is what he owes. The room went very quiet. Hewitt studied her with unsettling intensity. Then he stood and extended his hand. You have a deal, Miss Whitfield. I'll make sure the East India Company receives this information by morning. Their board meets in 3 days. They'll cancel the contract by week's end. Clara stood and shook his hand. His grip was firm, businesslike. One more thing, Hewitt said. When Ashford realizes what's happening, he'll come after you harder than before. Men with nothing to lose are the most dangerous. I know. Then you'd better be prepared to finish what you started. Clara met his eyes. I am. They left Marguerite's establishment and walked 3 blocks before Rowan spoke. That was reckless. Clara laughed, sharp and slightly hysterical. That was strategic. You pushed Hewitt. He could have refused out of spite. But he didn't, because I gave him something better than patience. I gave him greed. Clara's hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. You taught me that. When we first met. You said people are predictable if you understand what they want. Rowan caught her elbow, pulling her to a stop. You're learning too fast. Is that a problem? It is if it gets you killed. Clara pulled free. I'm not interested in surviving anymore, Rowan. I'm interested in winning. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Aren't they? You said yourself, sometimes the only way to build something new is to burn down what's already there. She gestured back toward Marguerite's. Well, we just lit the match. Now we see if we can control the fire. Rowan stared at her. You've changed. Yes. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Neither am I, but it's too late to go back now. They walked the rest of the way to the carriage in silence. Pemberton was waiting, reading a newspaper by lamplight. He looked up when they approached. Did it work? It worked, Clara said. Pemberton's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed. Then we're committed. We've been committed since the Worthington Ball, Rowan said. This just makes it official. The ride back to the estate felt different, lighter somehow, like they'd shifted from defense to offense, from prey to predator. Emma was waiting when they arrived, pacing the entrance hall. Well, Hewitt's in. He'll leak the information about Ashford's embezzlement by tomorrow. Clara pulled off her gloves. The East India Company will cancel his contract within days. Ashford won't have the money to pay his debt. Emma's eyes widened. So we actually did it? We started it. The ending depends on how Ashford responds. What do you think he'll do? Something desperate, Rowan said, which makes him predictable. And predictable means vulnerable. They moved into the drawing room. Mrs. Davies appeared with tea and something stronger. Clara collapsed into a chair, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "What happens now?" Emma asked. "Now we wait," Pemberton said. "The board meeting is in 3 days. Until then, we stay here, stay safe, and prepare for Ashford's retaliation. He's already tried to kill us once, which is why we're prepared this time." Rowan gestured toward the window. "I've hired additional security, men who know how to handle themselves. No one gets near this estate without us knowing." Clara sipped her tea. It was bitter and perfect. "And Gregory?" "Gregory's leverage died when you exposed the letters publicly. He has nothing left. He'll either disappear quietly or make a scene. Either way, he's irrelevant now." "People don't disappear quietly when they've lost everything." "No," Rowan agreed, "but they do become sloppy, and sloppy men make mistakes." 3 days later, the news broke. Clara was in the library when Pemberton arrived with the newspaper. He didn't say anything, just handed it to her and waited. The headline screamed across the front page: "East India Trading Company severs ties with Lord Ashford over embezzlement allegations." Below it, a detailed account of the investigation, the falsified manifests, the bribing officials, the years of stolen profits, every piece of evidence Hewitt had leaked, now public knowledge. Clara's hands trembled as she read. "It's over," she whispered. "Not yet." Rowan appeared in the doorway. "Ashford's response came an hour ago." He handed her another letter. Clara unfolded it with dread. "You've destroyed me. But I won't go quietly. If I'm ruined, I'll take you with me. Meet me at the old Riverside warehouse tonight at midnight. Come alone or I'll release every sordid detail about your relationship with Blackthorne to every newspaper in London. One chance. Midnight. Alone." Clara looked up. "He's going to try to kill me." "Undoubtedly. So what do we do?" Rowan's smile was cold and sharp. "We give him exactly what he wants." Emma slammed her teacup down hard enough to crack the saucer. "Absolutely not." Clara didn't look up from the letter. "It's the only way to end this. It's a trap. He's going to kill you. Probably. Clara, which is why I'm not going alone." Clara finally met her sister's eyes. "Rowan will have men positioned around the warehouse. The moment Ashford makes his move, they'll intervene. And if they're too late, then at least I went down fighting instead of hiding." Emma's face crumpled. "I can't lose you." "You won't. You don't know that." Clara crossed the room and took her sister's hands. "Emma, I've spent my entire life making myself small, invisible, safe. And where did it get me? Trapped in Gregory's house being sold to the highest bidder." She squeezed Emma's fingers. "I'm done being invisible, even if it costs me everything." Emma's tears spilled over. "You're the bravest person I know, and the stupidest. I'll take that as a compliment." Rowan spoke from the doorway. "We need to finalize the plan." Clara nodded and followed him to the study, where Pemberton had spread a map of the Riverside district across the desk. "The warehouse is here." Pemberton tapped a spot near the Thames. "Abandoned for 3 years. Multiple entrances, poor lighting, excellent place for an ambush." "How many men do we have?" Clara asked. 8, all former soldiers. They'll be positioned here, here, and here. Pemberton marked the map. "Close enough to intervene, but far enough that Ashford won't spot them immediately." "What about constables?" "Standing by 2 streets over. The moment we have evidence of Ashford's intent to harm you, we'll signal them." Clara studied the map. "He'll expect me to come alone." "Which is why you will appear to come alone." Rowan traced a path with his finger. "You'll enter through the main door. Engage him. Keep him talking. The men will move in once he reveals his hand. And if he shoots me on sight, then you'll be wearing this." Rowan pulled a vest from a trunk behind the desk. It was made of layered silk and leather, reinforced with thin metal plates. "It won't stop a rifle shot, but it'll give you a chance against a pistol at close range." Clara took the vest. It was heavier than it looked. "Where did you get this?" "I had it made years ago, after my father's friends started getting aggressive." Rowan's jaw tightened. "I never thought I'd be giving it to someone else. Will it fit under my dress?" "If we choose the right dress." Mrs. Davies appeared as if summoned, holding a dark wool gown. "This should work, miss. High collar, loose enough through the bodice to hide the bulk." Clara stared at the assembled materials, the vest, the dress, the weapons Pemberton was now laying out on the desk. A knife, a small pistol. This was really happening. I don't know how to shoot, she said. You won't need to. Rowan picked up the pistol. This is insurance. If something goes catastrophically wrong, you point and pull the trigger. But the goal is to never let it get that far. And Gregory, where is he in all this? Pemberton shuffled papers. Our sources say he's been drinking heavily since the scandal broke. Holed up in his club, ranting about betrayal to anyone who'll listen. He's a spent force. Drunk men do stupid things. Which is why we have someone watching him too. Rowan met her eyes. Clara, if you don't want to do this, we'll find another way. There is no other way. Ashford won't stop until one of us is dead. Clara picked up the pistol, testing its weight. At least this way, I control the when and where. The hours until midnight crawled by like years. Clara tried to read, tried to eat, ended up pacing the library while Emma watched her with haunted eyes. Tell me about the bridges, Emma said suddenly. Clara stopped. What? The suspension bridges. The ones you used to go on about when we were kids. Emma curled into the armchair. Tell me about them. Like you used to. Clara's throat tightened. Emma, please. I need to hear you talk about something you love. Something that isn't death and revenge. So Clara sat and talked about cables and tension and the poetry of forces in balance. She talked about the way a well-designed bridge could span impossible distances by distributing weight, by understanding that strength came from flexibility, not rigidity. Emma listened with her eyes closed. You're going to build one someday. Maybe. Not maybe. You will. After this is over, you're going to design something beautiful and impossible, and people will cross it and never know your name. But it'll be yours. Clara's vision blurred. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You were just too busy protecting me to notice. At 11:30, Clara dressed. The vest went on first, awkward and constricting. Then the dark wool gown, high-collared and severe. Mrs. Davies pinned her hair back in a tight knot, nothing loose or decorative. You look like you're going to a funeral, Emma said. Maybe I am. Rowan appeared in the doorway. He'd changed too. All black, armed with more weapons than Clara could count. The men are in position. The carriage is ready. Clara nodded, tried to stand. Her legs didn't want to cooperate. Emma grabbed her hand. Come back to me. I will. Promise. Emma, promise me, Clara. Say the words. Clara looked at her sister, 17 years old and already so much stronger than Clara had ever been. I promise. The lie tasted like ash. Yeah. The riverside warehouse loomed out of the fog like a rotting tooth. Clara stepped out of the carriage 2 blocks away and walked the rest alone, her footsteps echoing on wet cobblestones. The Thames stank of sewage and industry. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. She could feel Rowan's men watching from the shadows. It should have been comforting. It wasn't. The warehouse door hung open. Clara stepped inside. Darkness swallowed her whole. She waited for her eyes to adjust, hand hovering near the pistol hidden in her skirt pocket. I wasn't sure you'd come. Ashford's voice came from somewhere to her left. Clara turned slowly. He stepped into a shaft of moonlight filtering through a broken window. He looked terrible. Clothes rumpled, hair unkempt, eyes wild. This wasn't the polished predator from the Worthington ball. This was something desperate and dangerous. You gave me an ultimatum, Clara said, keeping her voice steady. I'm here. Alone? As requested. Ashford laughed. It echoed wrong in the empty space. You're lying. Blackthorn's men are out there somewhere, probably watching right now. If you knew that, why ask me to come? Because I need you to understand something. Ashford moved closer. Clara forced herself not to step back. You've destroyed me. My reputation, my businesses, my entire life. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure people knew about it. Semantics. He pulled a pistol from his coat. Clara's hand twitched toward her own weapon, but she stopped herself. Too soon. You could have just married me. Could have been quiet and obedient and lived a comfortable life. Instead, you chose this. I chose freedom. You chose humiliation. The pistol gleamed dully in the moonlight. But I suppose it doesn't matter now. You're here, and I'm going to make sure you regret every choice you've made. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. Killing me won't fix anything. You'll still be ruined, still be facing criminal charges. I don't care about fixing it. I care about making you hurt. He raised the pistol. Clara didn't think. She dove sideways as the shot exploded through the warehouse. The bullet hit somewhere behind her with a wet thunk. She hit the ground hard, the vest absorbing some of the impact but not all of it. Footsteps, running, shouting from outside. Ashford fired again. This time Clara felt the impact, a hammer blow to her chest that knocked the air from her lungs. The vest held, but barely. She gasped, rolling behind a stack of crates. More shouting. Closer now. Ashford appeared around the corner, pistol trained on her. You think Blackthorn can save you? He's as broken as I am, probably more. Clara's hand found her own pistol. She pulled it free, aimed with shaking hands. Don't, she said. Ashford smiled. Or what? You'll shoot me? You don't have the spine. He was right. Clara had never fired a gun in her life, didn't know if she could actually pull the trigger. But she didn't have to. A figure materialized behind Ashford, Rowan, moving with terrifying speed. He struck Ashford's gun hand with his cane. The pistol went flying. Then Rowan's fist connected with Ashford's face. Ashford went down hard. Rowan stood over him, breathing hard, cane raised for another strike. For a moment, Clara thought he might actually kill him. Don't! Clara's voice came out rough. He's not worth it. Rowan's hands shook. Then he lowered the cane and stepped back. Men poured into the warehouse, Rowan's security, the constables from 2 streets over. They surrounded Ashford, hauling him to his feet. Blood streamed from his nose. Lord Ashford, one of the constables said, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Ashford laughed again, high and broken. You think this matters? You think arresting me changes anything? I'm a lord. I'll be out by morning. Actually, Pemberton appeared from the shadows, holding papers. You won't. Your title has been under investigation for fraud. Turns out your grandfather purchased it with money stolen from investors. The Crown is revoking it pending a full inquiry. Ashford's face went white. That's a lie. It's documented fact. I have the receipts. Pemberton's smile was thin. You're not a lord, Ashford. You're just a common criminal, and common criminals go to prison. The constables dragged him away, still screaming protests. Clara sat down hard on a crate, her whole body shaking. Rowan crossed to her, kneeling to check her chest where the bullet had hit. Are you hurt? I don't know. I can't feel anything. Let me see. Clara unbuttoned the top of her dress with numb fingers. Rowan carefully examined the vest. The bullet had embedded in the metal plating, not quite penetrating, but leaving a crater. An inch to the left and it would have missed the plate entirely, he said quietly. But it didn't. No, it didn't. Rowan's hands were gentle as he helped her stand. Can you walk? I think so. They made it 3 steps before Clara's legs gave out. Rowan caught her, lifting her like she weighed nothing. I've got you. Clara pressed her face against his shoulder. Is it over? Almost. Stimpot. They went straight from the warehouse to Gregory's club. Clara insisted, despite Rowan's protests. I need to see him. Need to make sure he knows he lost. Gregory was exactly where Pemberton's sources said he'd be, drunk in a corner booth surrounded by empty bottles. He looked up when they approached, his eyes bloodshot and mean. You, he spat. You destroyed everything. No, you destroyed everything. Clara stayed standing despite how much her chest hurt. You married my mother for her money. You treated us like property. You tried to sell me to a predator. This is what happens when you build your life on other people's suffering. Gregory lunged at her. Rowan was faster, stepping between them. Touch her, and I'll break every bone in your hand, Rowan said quietly. Gregory stumbled back. This isn't over. I'll sue. You'll do nothing. Pemberton produced more papers. Your debts have been called in. All of them. Your creditors are seizing your assets to cover what you owe. By tomorrow morning, you'll be bankrupt. That's not possible. It's already done. The estate that was your wife's? It's been transferred to her daughters. You have no claim to it. Pemberton's voice was clinical. You have nothing, Mr. Whitfield. No money, no property, no leverage. You're irrelevant. Gregory's face twisted. I gave you everything, raised you, fed you. You gave us a roof and demanded our souls in exchange. Clara's voice was steady now. But we're free of you, both of us. And you'll spend the rest of your life knowing that the girl you thought was worthless brought you to ruin. She turned and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Behind her, she heard Gregory screaming. The sound faded as they reached the street. Emma was waiting in the carriage. She took one look at Clara's face and pulled her into a fierce hug. It's done, Clara whispered. It's actually done. Emma held her tighter. I was so scared. So was I. They rode back to the estate in silence. Clara dozed against Emma's shoulder, exhaustion finally overwhelming adrenaline. When they arrived, Mrs. Davies had hot water ready for a bath. Clara soaked until her fingers pruned, scrubbing away the warehouse smell and the memory of Ashford's gun. She slept for 16 hours straight. The scandal broke 3 days later. Every newspaper in London ran the story. Lord Ashford's arrest, his embezzlement, his attempted murder of Clara Whitfield. Gregory's bankruptcy. The fraudulent title. All of it laid bare for public consumption. But the narrative had shifted. Instead of Clara being the scandal, she became the victim who fought back. The brave young woman who'd exposed corruption at great personal risk. Letters arrived at the estate, dozens of them, from women thanking her for standing up to men like Ashford. You're famous, Emma said, reading through the pile. I'm notorious. There's a difference. Same thing, really. Just depends on who's telling the story. Emma held up one letter. This one's from a countess. She wants to meet you. Clara took the letter, read it twice. She wants to commission a bridge design. A what? A bridge. For her estate in Scotland. She says, Clara's voice caught. She says she read about my interest in engineering and wants to support women in unconventional fields. Emma's smile was radiant. See, I told you, you're going to build bridges. Over the next weeks, more commissions arrived. Not many. Society was still scandalized by the idea of a woman engineer. But enough. Enough to start. Clara set up a small office in Rowan's library, spent her days calculating load distributions and sketching designs. It wasn't formal training, but Rowan connected her with engineers who were willing to teach, men who valued skill over convention. Emma, surprisingly, discovered a talent for business management. She started handling Clara's correspondence, negotiating contracts, managing finances. The scandal had made her harder, sharper, less naive, but somehow stronger for it. We make a good team, Emma said one evening, reviewing accounts. We always did. I just wasn't paying attention. You were too busy protecting me. Someone had to. Emma looked up. I don't need protecting anymore. Clara studied her sister, still young, but not a child. Not anymore. No, you don't. What? 6 months after the Worthington ball, Clara stood on the cliffs behind Rowan's estate, watching the sea crash against the rocks. Behind her, construction crews were working on the first bridge she'd ever designed, a modest span connecting 2 parts of Rowan's property, built to her exact specifications. It wasn't grand, wasn't famous, but it was hers. Footsteps on gravel. Rowan appeared beside her, watching the workers. They're making good progress. Better than I expected. Clara hugged herself against the wind. I keep waiting for it to collapse. It won't. You over-engineered it by a factor of 3. Better safe than sorry. Rowan smiled. You don't trust your own calculations? I trust the math. I don't trust the world not to throw something unexpected at it. Fair. They stood in comfortable silence. Clara had learned that Rowan was most himself in these quiet moments, when he didn't have to perform competence or control, when he could just exist. I'm leaving next week, she said. Rowan went very still. Where? Edinburgh. There's an engineering society there that's willing to let me audit lectures. Emma's coming with me. For how long? I don't know. As long as it takes to learn what I need to learn. More silence. The wind howled around them. I'll miss you, Rowan said finally. Clara's throat tightened. You could come with us. No, I couldn't. Why not? Because Edinburgh is your fresh start. You don't need me hovering, reminding you of everything that happened here. Clara turned to face him. You're not a reminder of bad things, Rowan. She struggled for words. You're the reason I'm still alive, still fighting, still believing I can build something that matters. That was all you. No, it wasn't. Clara reached for his hand. I was drowning before I met you. You threw me a lifeline, let me pull myself up. That's not nothing. Rowan's fingers tightened around hers. What are you saying? I'm saying that when I'm done in Edinburgh, when I've learned everything I can learn, I'm coming back. And I'm building something here. Something permanent. With you, if you'll have me. Clara, I'm not asking you to be fixed. I'm not asking you to be whole. I'm asking if you're willing to build something with someone who's just as broken and just as determined to keep going anyway. Rowan pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. Clara kissed him back harder, trying to communicate everything she couldn't quite articulate. Trust. Gratitude. Something that felt dangerously close to love. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. Write to me, Rowan said. Every week. Every day if you want. I want, Clara smiled. Then every day it is. Emma was waiting in the library when Clara returned, surrounded by trunks and travel documents. All packed? Almost. I'm bringing too many books. There's no such thing as too many books. Emma grinned. That's what I said. Mrs. Davies disagrees. Clara helped her sister sort through the piles. At the bottom of one trunk, she found the letter, the one from their mother that had started all of this. The confession about Emma's parentage. Do you ever regret it? Emma asked quietly. Exposing the secret? Clara considered. No, secrets are only powerful when they're hidden. Once they're out in the open, they're just facts, and facts can't control you. People still whisper. Let them. We know who we are. That's what matters. Emma took the letter and fed it into the fireplace. They watched it burn together. To new beginnings, Emma said. To building something better. The flames consumed the paper, turning secrets into ash and ash into smoke that disappeared up the chimney and into the sky. Clara's first bridge opened 2 years later. It wasn't in London or Edinburgh or any of the places she'd imagined. It was in a small village in northern England, spanning a river that had claimed 3 lives in floods over the past decade. The villagers had pooled their resources and hired Clara based on her growing reputation. She designed it to withstand twice the force of the worst recorded flood, used innovative cable arrangements that distributed weight more efficiently than traditional designs, made it beautiful in its simplicity, no unnecessary ornamentation, just pure function and form. On opening day, the entire village turned out. Clara stood at one end, Emma at the other. Between them, the bridge stretched, strong, elegant, unashamed of what it was. Ready? Emma called. Clara nodded. They walked toward each other, meeting in the middle. The bridge held steady under their weight, under the weight of the villagers who followed, under the weight of every doubt Clara had ever had about whether she deserved to build something permanent. Rowan was there too, watching from the bank with something soft and proud in his expression. He'd traveled up from London specifically for this, had spent the past 2 years supporting Clara's work from a distance, never asking for more than she could give. After the ceremony, after the celebrations, Clara found him by the river. What do you think? I think you're brilliant. I think the bridge is exactly what you said it would be. Functional, honest, beautiful because it doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is. Rowan pulled her close. Just like you. Clara leaned into him. I'm moving back to London next month. Emma too? Emma's staying in Edinburgh. She's engaged to a professor there. Someone kind who sees her for who she is. And you? I have a commission for a bridge in London. A big one. Crossing the Thames. Clara looked up at him. I'll need a place to stay while I work on the design. Rowan's smile was slow and genuine. I might know of a townhouse with excellent library space. Is the owner agreeable? Depends. Is the tenant planning to stay permanently? Clara's heart fluttered. That depends on whether the owner is planning to propose properly or just keep making oblique suggestions. Rowan laughed, the full rich sound she'd only heard a handful of times. Then he dropped to one knee right there by the river, mud and all. Clara Whitfield, will you marry me and spend the rest of our lives building things that outlast us both? Clara pulled him to his feet. Yes, but on one condition. Anything. We design our wedding venue together. Something structurally interesting, with good tension distribution. Rowan kissed her, laughing against her mouth. Only you would propose engineering specifications as a marriage condition. You knew what you were getting into. I absolutely did, and I'd choose it again, every time. They married 6 months later in a building Clara had designed, a small chapel with soaring arches that distributed weight so efficiently it seemed to float. Emma stood as her witness, radiant in her own happiness. Pemberton served as Rowan's best man, dryly noting that he'd predicted this outcome 2 years ago. The ceremony was simple. The vows were honest. Clara promised to build a life with Rowan that could withstand pressure and time. Rowan promised to give her room to be brilliant and broken and human all at once. When they kissed, sealing the promises, Clara felt something shift. Not fixed, not whole, but standing, strong, ready for whatever came next. 5 years later, Clara stood on the completed Thames Bridge at sunrise. It was her masterpiece, a suspension bridge that combined innovative cable designs with classical elegance. Engineers came from across Europe to study it. It had changed how people thought about what bridges could be, but Clara's favorite part was the small plaque at the base, designed by Clara Blackthorne, built to endure. Footsteps behind her. Rowan appeared holding a small bundle wrapped in blankets. Their daughter, 3 months old, with Clara's dark hair and Rowan's gray eyes. She's awake, Rowan said. Wanted her mother. Clara took the baby, cradling her against her chest. Did you tell her about the bridge? I told her that her mother is the most brilliant engineer in England, and that someday she'll build something even more impossible. No pressure then. Rowan kissed Clara's temple. She'll be fine. She has you as an example. Clara looked down at her daughter, this tiny, perfect thing that she and Rowan had built together. What if I mess it up? Then you'll fix it. That's what you do. You see problems and you solve them. People aren't bridges. No, they're more complicated. But the same principles apply. Strong foundations, flexibility under pressure, honesty about what you can and can't bear. Rowan's arm came around her waist. You've got this. Clara leaned into him, watching the sun paint the Thames gold. Around them, London was waking up, people crossing her bridge, using the structure she'd designed, never knowing or caring about the woman who'd been invisible once. That girl was gone now. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, more honest, someone who'd learned that the strongest structures weren't born from privilege but from pressure, from breaking and rebuilding, from refusing to disappear even when the world demanded it. Clara Blackthorne had been nothing once. Now she was undeniable, and that bridge stretching behind her, solid, elegant, built to withstand anything the Thames could throw at it, was proof that the girl no one saw had become impossible to ignore.